What are the cons of receiving a kidney transplant?
The pros outweigh the cons by a mile, but you'll be taking anti-rejection drugs daily to keep the donor kidney from being rejected or failing.
Will the new kidney last for the rest of my life?
You'll need to take good care of your health and follow doctor's instructions, but in general, 90% of transplanted kidneys work for at least 1 year. Kidneys from deceased donors tend to last 10 to 15 years.
While waiting, some patients become too sick to have a transplant, or even die waiting for one.
I didn't mean to startle you. Just glad to see you back to normal-ish.
Episode 4, in the beginning, at the counter, my mind was everywhere and thinking about the doctor said and hearing all these things that I hadn't heard before and trying to process it and wrap my head around it. And everything just hitting at one time was a lot, and it was just all spiraling. And for her to try and manage it and keep moving throughout her day like there was nothing going on was a lot, and it all collapses in on me at that point, just hands down, like I just,
Dialysis only cleans your blood at about 15% of what a kidney transplant would do. And if you're getting dialysis, you have kind of peaks and valleys. When you're getting dialyzed, your blood might be clean at that time. Where transplant, you have a kidney in there that's cleaning your blood all the time. A kidney also does other things. I mean, it releases a hormone called erythropoietin, or EPO. It stimulates your bone marrow to make more red blood cells. So by having a kidney transplant, you get more of this hormone, you make more red blood cells. You just feel physiologically normal, and it keeps your blood clean at a much higher level consistently throughout the day.
The first advantage of transplantation that I give to my patients is you live longer. I don't mince words. I don't, try to sugarcoat that, oh, no, I know people on dialysis 20 years and this kind of thing. Transplant, going to the social side, gives you more freedom. You're able to urinate, you're able to go do your thing. The difference is you have to take medicines the rest of your life. But if you had high blood pressure or diabetes, you're gonna have to do that anyway. So transplant offers freedom, and it offers a longer lifespan.
The disadvantage of a kidney transplant is that it's a big surgery. It's a high-risk surgery. You're operating on major vessels. You're operating on the retroperitoneum, you're operating on the kidney, the bladder, the ureter. So there's risks. You can have risk of bleeding, infection, rejection, even a risk of death. So although there's great advantages, there's also disadvantages in complications and so on related to surgery. So that's why maybe a kidney transplant isn't the best option for maybe someone who's older, who has heart disease, who might not be able to tolerate a big surgery. You check typically whether you have heart disease, see if you're able to kind of go through the surgery. So you want to make sure they're not short of breath. And you do a full blood work exam. And you also, do some basic cancer screening and these kind of things. The recipient also sees all kinds, sees a surgeon, sees a nephrologist, and again, sees a social worker. So it's a big process, and there's multiple teams involved.
To get ready for the transplant, in the beginning, they would not even list me because I was overweight. So I lost the weight.
The social worker is the one who can truly assess what is this support system really like. Because if a patient doesn't have a good support system, 9 times out of 10, something will happen and they stop taking their meds and they reject the kidney that someone else could have had. The individual assessment becomes crazy important. Is this person motivated to do the transplant? Will they be compliant? All of those things happen in the realm of social work.
We are really looking at your soundness and readiness for transplant. We want to make sure that emotionally you understand, the heaviness of transplant, what it looks like, what it means. We want to make sure that you have the financial means to sustain a transplant, meaning that you can pay for some of the things like the parking, your medication copays. Can you take care of yourself if you're out of work? Do you qualify for disability? What that looks like for you. In addition to that, we look at your caregiver support support, making sure that your caregiver not only is available and committed to taking care of you, but we also want to make sure that they have the ability and the means to take time off of work to be there with you during your recovery period. Depending on the relationship, that conversation might look different. If they're a spouse or an immediate family member, they most likely would qualify for like FMLA and other protections from their employers, but there are some relationships that we have to have different conversations. And so the goal of the transplant evaluation is really just to completely assess the patient from a total perspective from all aspects to make sure that when we list a patient and they're activated for a transplant, that if they get a call today, they are ready to go.
I got a call from Sean, my transplant coordinator, and he said, I have some good news for you and I have some bad news. And I said, okay. He says, which do you want first? I said, it doesn't matter. He said, well, the good news is you have a donor, but the bad news, it's not going to be the 6-week process. It's going to be like 2 weeks. So, yeah, so I had to get ready real fast. That was the best thing for me.
As Eric Morris in this series, for me, it was in a sense, a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions of what a person has to go through when they're wanting to help their family, but they may not be able to do it. I had to make sure I was healthy enough. And that was a good thing. You know, that counters it. Is like you want to make sure you're taking care of yourself so you can do things like that. Because if I wasn't healthy enough, I wouldn't have been able to donate. And then I wouldn't have been able to help my wife. So that was another thing that it made me think like, wow, how important it is to just keep yourself healthy and take care of yourself through these years, because you may need to do something like that.
Living donation is an elective surgery of someone who's healthy. And many people struggle with the ask because I'm asking you to do something major that you don't have to do on my behalf. It's a gift that can't be repaid in many people's minds. And so I think in many ways, people are challenged by the ask.
The donor didn't have to do it, but he did it anyway because he was going to donate the kidney to his brother, but it wasn't a match. He could have withdrawn it then, but he still wanted to donate that kidney. And like I say again, I was the one to receive it. So we still stay in contact. I say now we are brothers for real now.
African Americans receive fewer living donations probably because of two things, I think. One is the sort of prevalence of hypertension and other problems that prevent African American young people from donating kidneys because of the heightened response to these medical conditions. But the other thing is, when faced with the problem of approaching kidney failure, I think that minority and diverse population need education as to the importance of living donation in alleviating that risk of going on dialysis. Dialysis is a great thing, it keeps people alive, but at the same time, it's not a very easy or natural way of living. So in a way, the problem with particularly the recipients is their fear that if they were to ask someone in their family to donate, is that that person would be at risk also of developing kidney failure, something we know is not quite accurate. So education is important at the beginning of kidney disease and during the phases of preparing for a transplant.
I didn't even know what living donors were. And I was in the kitchen of my Aunt Carol's house back home in Leavenworth, Kansas, and my cousin came in, and he looked a little chalky. When you're black and you have an illness, you start to look a little ashy, as we say. And he was looking ashy, and I was like, oh, Stuart, what you looking all ashy for? And then I looked down at his arm, and he had this big bulbous thing on his arm. I was like, what is that? He's like, oh, I'm on dialysis. And I was like, you're on dialysis, you're only like 30 years old, what's going on? He's like, well, both of my kidneys are gone. And I remember standing there, and if you're connected to anything outside of yourself, you realize that you get that still small voice. And I remember the voice going, oh, you can donate a kidney. Now, again, remember, I have no idea that there's such thing as a living donor. I don't know why. I don't think a lot of us understand that concept before you're a part of it. And I remember hearing that voice going, you could donate a kidney. And I was like, hey, I'll donate a kidney to you. I say this directly to my cousin.
A living related transplant is the best transplant that you can get because the genes all match up. And so there's less likely a gene that's sticking out that your immune system says, I don't like that hair out of place. Let's go get that thing. That's what causes rejection or your body to want to get rid of this kidney because it wasn't born with me. It's foreign. It's kind of like me, but it's foreign. I don't want it. The deceased donor is the opposite, okay? Deceased donor is not related to me. So it's the highest likelihood that I am going to spit this out.
Doesn't mean if you got a deceased donor transplant, maybe yours will last a very long time. I mean, some deceased donor transplants can last 30 years. Kidney transplant, what can I say? I mean, it's definitely the best option.
You live longer, period.
Okay. I'm not understanding. You want me to give my kidney to somebody else?
There are a lot of people in our situation where they have family members or a friend who's healthy, but they don't match them. So they put all of us in a computer database to try and get as many matches as they can. So everyone gets an anonymous living donor kidney sooner than waiting 3 to 5 years or longer for a deceased donor.
Sounds like a pyramid scheme. Ernestine thought participating in the kidney chain was absolutely crazy. It's like, how do you know this is going to work? You've never done this before. You're just taking somebody's word for it. And this is my daughter and my son-in-law.
Paired donation is the basic form of a kidney exchange. So let's say your mother is on dialysis and my mother is on dialysis, and maybe I want to donate a kidney to my mother, you want to donate a kidney to your mother, but you're A blood type and your mom is B blood type, and I'm B blood type and my mom's A blood type. So we have the reciprocal different blood types. So I could go, my B blood type could donate to your mom, and your A blood type could donate to my mom, and that way we both help each other out.
Where I'm at in the transplant process is my kidney function is pretty low. I'm in stage 5, which I'm ready for a transplant anytime now. I'm actually on 3 different waiting lists. So given that my husband recently donated a kidney to someone so that I can receive a voucher to get a donation from a live person. The voucher system, as I understand it, is because my husband donated a kidney. See, he was not a direct match for me. We were incompatible. So he donated to a stranger, and because he did that, I receive a voucher, which essentially makes me at the top of the list. So he donated about a month ago. So I was told by my team that they'll begin looking for a kidney in a couple of weeks. So I could get a kidney as soon as a few weeks up to a year is what they're estimating.
It's been about 40 days since I donated my kidney. And I'm at the recovery stage right now where I can pick up pounds and, do normal activity. And I feel pretty good at this point. It's awesome. It's a wonderful experience to donate to someone that you don't even know. A part of giving life. I think that's what we're supposed to do as a human race.
Yeah, donor chain is great. I mean, it's a brilliant concept. It's basically, there's these people out there who donate a kidney to strangers. They're just like, look, I have an extra kidney. I want to help out someone. I don't have anyone I need to donate to, but I would really like to do it. Often they're blood donors, maybe they're bone marrow donors, and they want to also donate a kidney. That's just how they live their life. They're incredible people. So instead of just giving a kidney to one person on the wait list, they say, all right, well, you could take my kidney and maybe that person gives a kidney to my mother. And then I go, oh, well, a stranger gave a kidney to my mother, so then I give a kidney to your mother. And then you're like, well, look, Jeff gave a kidney to my mom, maybe I'll just keep paying it forward. So then you give your kidney to the next person, and the next person's loved one who didn't match their loved one just pays it forward. So you get these great long chains. And that frees up a lot of people who were waiting for a deceased donor kidney because their loved one didn't match them. So the neat thing about chains is that, you know, some of them are 30 transplants long, but there's another 30 people on the deceased donor wait list that move up and take their spots. And so chains are wonderful.
At the end, it's all about getting a kidney to one recipient or to the most recipients you can, making the most good from your gift.
It's sort of like a dream come true. For years I wondered, you know, what would happen? Would I end up on dialysis? Would a friend give me a kidney? Because I have asked, I've told friends about it. My family's health is not good because the kidney disease I have runs in families, and so I knew they couldn't donate. So it just feels like a special blessing was gifted to me.
There is a lot of makeup in there. One of the things is you making a decision that you want to be a living donor and kind of understanding what that means and going through that process. The other part of it is just the medical the part is, you know, traveling to the facility which you're going to donate your kidney with and going through the blood work and going through echocardiograms and things like that. But that process is not so hindering because they're telling you that you are healthy enough to even do this.
You want to make sure that the donor tends to not have a history of cancer, high blood pressure, diabetes. You do an imaging study to make sure that the living donor has 2 kidneys. You would hate to take out one kidney and it's their only kidney. So, you know, it's a very drawn out evaluation. There tends to be, they check your heart, all these kind of things. The donor also sees a social worker and maybe a psychologist to make sure that they're not being paid to donate, that they're doing the donation just because they really want to do the donation. They're not being coerced.
So if someone is interested in becoming a living donor, most transplant centers have something on their website that says, like, if you're interested in becoming a donor, you know, click this link, and they typically will have a questionnaire that the donor would fill out, and then they will be contacted by the donor team. The donor team would then schedule the assessment. Typically, yeah, they have to self-initiate. So no one can contact them from a center and say, hey, we heard you were interested. They certainly have to self-identify, you know, their desire, and then they go from there.